Okay, we are live with the second edition of the Crypto Market Power Hour, aka the Justice League of Crypto. Um, every other week, it will be hosted on a rotating basis between my stream, which is the one you're currently on, and Jack's stream. So last week was Jack's stream. Last time was Jack's stream. This time is mine. And we'll be going in a different order than last time because Jack got left out. So he'll be going first. Since it's just the second episode, let's do another quick round of introductions before we get started. And then we'll just hop right into the analysis because I know that's what everyone actually gives a shit about. So, Jack, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of this. I am Jack, CryptoJack. I'm on Twitter a lot. I'm at CryptoJack Live. And then I'm also on Twitch, just under twitch.tv/CryptoJack. Just a charts guy and happy to be here with these other fine gentlemen.
Josh?
Sure. Hey, guys. I'm Josh, Carbon Noctum. Been around the block for a while. I trade, I chart, I research, I write, I pod, a video, always online person. Work for Valkyrie Research or Valkyrie. I had a research there, and happy to join the Justice League of Crypto. I had to remember what that was.
The Justice League?
Yeah, our name.
Oh, yeah.
Our official name.
Yeah, our official name. Also, guys, these levels are kind of... I'm watching the Streamlabs audio levels freak out. So if you can't hear Jack and Josh, let me know, and I'll adjust the audio levels. We were having some technical difficulties leading into this. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and get Jack up here first. He gets his own little screen with a smooth, professional transition. Jack, go ahead.
Much better than mine. Guys, welcome. Okay. So quick disclaimer, it's been a day or so since I've really dived into the charts, but I did find some interesting things. Want to go over those with you guys today. One thing that I've gone over in a few older streams for whatever reason, and I can't tell you why, but the 56-hour EMA has been a really interesting level to kind of
Get the
watch.
flip out of here. I'm 56. Yeah.
Dude, I can't tell you why, but look at this. Like, we're talking about weeks of data where it's just like, nope, this is where the algo sets in. And obviously we had a little rally here. Right now we're under it, but as soon as we reclaim it again, I don't know. It could be like a nice little uptick. I really don't care. I'm just pointing that out just to get it out of the way. But the thing I care more about is levels. There's an old saying, bulls take the stairs and bears take the window. Whenever you are at the start of a nice macro uptrend, you want to see stuff like this basically on, like, if you zoom out. And what's really happening here is, market's building a level, it moves up, maybe it comes back and retests, but then consolidates, moves up, comes back, retests. And it's basically building stairs up, 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 up. And kind of the key takeaway to that is retesting key levels. So I'm really okay with what's happening I know I'm on the 6 hour still, but you could view this on the daily or whatever. But it's just kind of big picture. It's not game over, yet. The time when I get very concerned / interested in butt pucker, whatever, is should we start closing back below these levels? This would be, I know a lot of people have heard me talk about the bullish megaphone or whatever I've talked about for a while, but also if you just kind of extrapolate it out and you saw some sort of closes back in here, yet again, that would be a cause for concern because this is our invalidation level. This level is always here. The floor is lava. We do not want to have any kind of drop back in this level or lights out for a little bit. It could go as low as whatever the lower bounds of this megaphone would be. So that would be pretty painful for the bulls. Couple other things worth going over that I just think is interesting. Ethereum on the Bitcoin pair. I have long since struggled on a proper way to TA ETH on the Bitcoin pair, because it seems like as soon as we get a breakdown, it rallies back. This has gone on and on for a while. But what I think could be very interesting here is as we're about a year away from the halving, from the infamous Bitcoin halving. And that's typically when, the bull run will start on the other side of the halving. So there's all kinds of time for debatery between now and then. But I think it could just be interesting if this fleshes out into a much more recognizable pattern before exploding up and maybe being part, an actual bullish impulse, a bullish rally at or around the next halving. But that's really all I have to offer. That just caught my eye, and I thought that was interesting on Ethereum. A couple other
I just
things.
think BTC is like impossible to trade.
It's impossible.
Directly.
And I say this every stream. Somebody asked me what do I think is going to happen? I'm like, I don't know. The best thing we had happened with this breakdown, because we had 9 months of activity leading into a breakdown. And so if you wanted to short a moment in time, sure, go for it. But after that, I don't know. Also, Josh, I saw you talking about this Eve Atom, which was pretty rare. And I'm with you on that. I think that's interesting. You'll probably get into that in your analysis. And I don't think that's a bad take at all. I was just trying to make sense of like why the sell-off here, in relation to kind of these other moments in time. A couple other things. Bitcoin dominance refuses to die, even though I was sure that, just like we saw the Dixie go parabolic and then kind of give it all back, I was really thinking that it would do the same thing. And perhaps it still does, right? There's lots of time for some sort of head and shoulders or whatever. This could turn into whatever. But I think it's very interesting. We're on our 4th week now up in this level. And all the other times we've been up here, it was like V reversal, V reversal, V reversal. And here we're just kind of living up here.
I think if you're an alt person, you just have a stop set above that high.
Sure.
Like if you're in alts and you're like, yes, alt season, let's go. I think you want to see BTC just keep ranging, and you want to see BTC dominance just remain below that 49, whatever that is. So for me, like if I'm trading alts, like those are my 2 stop loss levels to keep in mind. It's like, does Bitcoin drop below 28.5 and does BTC dominance break above 50, right?
Yeah. And I think that's wise. And for those of you who don't know, guys, Bitcoin dominance, this is inverse to, alt season, basically. So if this chart does this, or you have reason to believe it's going to trend downward, then you could probably put your money on an alt season of sorts. When it's trending up, you basically want to have your limited capital in Bitcoin rather than alts. Like this is kind of the ebb and flow of things. So yeah, like Josh is saying, range bound is perfectly fair take. And I think a drop could be very interesting for alts. And it would probably correlate or coincide with a break of this, the dad line here. I always call these kind of downtrend lines the dad line, because this is what spanks you and sends you back to your room. Like you don't get any fun. But if you can break out here, that's where a lot of interesting things happen, and Ethereum outpaces Bitcoin and probably other alts with it. And then I think I only have really one other chart to show, and then I'll pass the mic. But I think it's very interesting on the S&P futures, this is something I like to keep an eye on. Get rid of this just so I can make this point, that there's been this pretty clear inverted head and shoulders. I'm drag that back over with a couple price targets, and we're right up near the first one, just the extension target. So if you took a long back in here, or you were betting on kind of a bullish follow through of sorts, we're getting up there. And this is not like super concerning, I guess, but there's almost a sort of rising wedge taking place. And I know Schmitty's going to talk about that for Bitcoin as well. So I think these things may be correlated in some way. Usually you see both the traditional markets and the crypto markets kind of going north or south simultaneously. So if you start seeing some weakness or / breakdown in one, you could probably bet the other will happen as well. But for now, it's interesting that we've made this pattern. This pattern is at / near it's this sell zone or target zone, whatever you want to call it. It's very close to it. And so the question is, okay, then what? Does it consolidate and continue, or is this going to be some sort of get back 60%, find our footing, and then keep going? So with that, I will pass the mic.
Well, so
wait. Do you mean we're going up or down?
Yeah. So up or down.
So up or down. The trade for up was back in here. Now this is like taking profit on the trade for up and waiting. Like I don't think the market has even really told us. So if I was betting that, like, the easy move for me right now is buy spot Bitcoin and chill. Margin positions, I think, are just asking to get flayed. And I really don't see a setup, like a macro setup one way or another. I haven't looked on the lower time frame. I don't know if it's any use, but
It's really good for intraday crypto trading. Like you can, like today there was a really big gap fill. So you're not going to see it on the futures, but like if you look at like SPY, for example, which is the ETF, right? There was a big gap fill that corresponded with this morning's bounce, and the crypto market is topping out on its bounce right after the gap fill. So like little things like that do help a lot.
Interesting.
Can you pull up your ETH BTC chart again?
Yeah. Daily ETH BTC. So this is kind of what I was looking at.
Yeah. So Josh kind of mentioned that it's like these are basically untradeable.
Yes.
And something that I've been talking about a lot in my streams are like people always want to see like the Bitcoin pair, insert altcoin Bitcoin pair, and it's incredibly difficult to trade these because they're not derivatives, but they're like effectively derivatives, right? So like Bitcoin is one derivative removed from like traditional markets, right? Ether is one derivative removed from Bitcoin. Ether Bitcoin is in one further extension to that. So when you add all these like different arms lengths away from the core thing that moves the market, you get these weird things that happen. So
yeah, no, agreed. And like, are you really gonna, like, if I zoom in on this moment in time, are you telling me that you're gonna successfully trade this to that to the, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. Like the most I personally would ever look at a Bitcoin pair chart is to give further confidence in the Ether USD trade. So like say for example, and this is only if in like specific situations where like if Bitcoin is bullish and Ether is bullish, does Ether Bitcoin look like it has room to move to the upside? Other than that, like I remember back in 2017 trying to trade Ether Bitcoin specifically, and I was like, I just kept breaking even. I was like, this is just choppy bullshit, and it was just going nowhere. I don't know.
Right.
That's just my 2 cents on the Ether Bitcoin chart.
Now there's times when it, like there's a really slick kind of macro setup, and you're like, oh my god, this is it, this is the one. But then there's just long, like painful moments in time. This has effectively gone sideways since what is like May of 2021. Like this, no matter how you slice and dice it, like that's basically sideways. And I know whether you're an ETH maxi or Bitcoin maxi, but you're trying to trade Ethereum, like it really doesn't matter. You're just getting chopped up. You're like range bound forever until it clearly breaks one way or another.
Yeah, I think like knowing if there is a trend in these pairs is obviously you need to know that. You need to know like is there some huge like weekly setup? Even just knowing that, okay, there's a falling wedge here, like that's super helpful to decide rotations potentially, right? But again, I would never, I too have tried to trade the pair directly. It is very, very hard. And you almost guarantee to just get chopped up, just meat grinder, wood chipper type thing.
Oh, and I lied. Last thing, VIX has reached a 2-year low.
It's low today too.
Yeah. So I really dislike environments where you have things like the S&P or the futures, ES futures, whatever, and they're just kind of drifting while the VIX is dropping. And you can see there's a lot of red across the board, whether you're in coin or GBTC or Robinhood, whatever, like even gold, like there's red across the board while VIX is at a 2-year low. Like these are things where you should kind of sit up in your chair and be like, I don't know if I like that. This often coincides with like really crazy market events.
Well, that was something I was looking at today was gold versus Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin versus US indices. And we've actually gained a ton of correlation to gold since the banking stuff.
Interesting.
So we're trading more gold-like than equity-like currently. That's why seeing gold like get smacked down at that high is just brutal.
Right.
So
go ahead, Jimmy.
I have a question about VIX because I don't use this ever. So is the idea with VIX that like the lower it is, the higher potential for incoming volatility is? Kind of like a Bollinger Band consolidation? Is that the general takeaway from that?
I always hear it referenced as a sort of like, think of it as like a fear and greed indicator, where this is like now like max fear and then like minimal fear. So it's like
Oh,
if
okay.
we're going down when we're like the least scared of things we've been in years, you know, of like whatever the situation is, then what happens as this like rubber band snaps the other way? Like that's like the worry is like if we go from this to this, but the market's already kind of toppy / sideways, then what happens? You know, is that like the Spartan kick where like if the S&P is up here trading against this, right? So the S&P might be kind of like climbing sideways and then it like spook drops, you know, with this impulse. That's kind of the worry whenever people start seeing it make new lows and drift. That makes sense.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you zoom way out too, like we're at post-COVID lows on the VIX, I think. Like if you go to the weekly or something. Yeah, okay. So not quite post-COVID lows, but you
Pretty
can see
close.
like, you know, the COVID
Yeah,
spike
yeah.
is obviously a fear spike, right? Tons of volatility. No one knows what's going on, right? Panic in the streets.
Right.
And we've really calmed down a lot since then, obviously, but we had been in this level, this floor that Jack has on the chart there that we're drifting far below now.
So, would a good way to summarize that to be like if the market is drifting upward as VIX is slamming into a floor, that's like ignorant, blind confidence, and you're not scared enough. Like, what is like the elevator pitch for that takeaway?
Well, like my understanding is that's how it used to be traded, but in the last year and a half, it's kind of just been trash. So a lot of people just kind of like roll their eyes and don't even use VIX anymore. But at some point it's going to go the opposite way. Like at some point it's going to be a useful indicator again. And
Like,
it starts being useful as it's making extremes, either like an extreme high or an extreme low.
so it would be like a type of divergence in a way where like if the
Yeah,
market's going up and it's like you should be looking to take profit, and this is showing that people aren't looking to take profit, almost like a bull trap.
sure. Like you know, end of 2021, you know, this was like Bitcoin markets. When did Bitcoin market like really top? It was like kind of end of in the quarter 4 ish of 2021, right? And what happened quarter 4 of 2021? Like this was like the least fear in the streets, and then things sort of like rubber band snap the other way. And you can see it's super volatile. Like this is not things you can easily trade, but you can kind of at least somewhat tilt your head sideways and be like, okay, there's this sort of trend, and then the trend changes. And so that's kind of the idea, is like trying to just use it as another checkbox in a like a more macro you know, list of things. Okay, it's are we like is the technicals for the traditional markets and the crypto markets saying one thing or another? Okay, good. How does VIX apply to that? Like does VIX confirm, you know, what my suspicion or whatever?
I see. Okay.
You also have structural changes in like options in the markets in general. So it's hard to even like zooming way out, looking back like pre-2020, VIX was like pretty quiet most of the time, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it was actually like a pretty easy tool. You're like, oh, okay, compression breakout, compression breakout, compression breakout. Like, and then it just turned into kind of a choppy little mess here.
Yeah, like post meme stonkery, ODT, you know, next day
Mhm.
options, whatever. Like everything's sort of different now. It's like looking at the ETH chart post proof of work.
Yeah.
Sorry, post proof of work. It's just different, right? You got to take into account different stuff. So anyway,
I think that's fair.
yeah, the VIX is weird.
Last Jack comment here is, in case you didn't know, there is
Oh God, here we go.
there's an item being sold from CS:GO with a current high bid of $210,000. I just thought that was worth sharing today, since CS:GO is all the rage right now.
Well, some Jordans just sold for 2.2 million.
Oh,
So
for real?
yeah,
Dang.
Well, I've
You
got some
bought 'em, huh?
Pokemon cards that are begging to get
there was
valued.
a huge okay 2-second spiel. There was a huge rift in the Pokemon card community because somebody on the product line was stealing like the ultra rare cards and trying
I
to
saw
sell them.
that. Yeah, I saw that.
Man, that's a yikes. Anyway,
Okay. Josh, whenever you're ready, I'll transition
oh, it's
to
my
you.
turn.
Yeah.
Your turn, my man.
Sure. Hopefully that's correct.
Blam. You guys like the transitions? Look at that. Oh, wait. I got to fix the top of your chart.
So I think this week we're all in agreement. You know, last week it was a little bit of a, you know, chicken schmiddle saying the sky's gonna fall. And it didn't look heavily one way or the other. It's just, that ascending triangle started 2 weeks ago before we broke out. But what I'm watching here is just this price has memory, the chart has memory. Believe it or not, it doesn't matter to me. And we're at this memory zone, this key level. It was certainly huge on the way down in 2021, definitely huge again in 2022. And this, this chop was ugly too in 2022 when we just sort of, we could be headed for the same thing here, right? It looks similar. We have this day over day complete reversal over and over and over again. That's not out of the question. But what we really need to see, what I would like to see, is just continued sideways, right? Chop nonsense. This is not something I'm actively trading for sure, but sorry, what you want to hope for if you're bullish is range chop with eventual higher highs, right? It's not like rocket science here, but this is the target zone for all of the patterns that we've spent like months consolidating, right? This head and shoulders is right there. This I know this is super busy, but this megaphone, so we got tons of reasons to just relax here. And I, like Jack, also have this, diagonal. Definitely don't want to drop below that. Don't want to drop below the breakout point in April 10th that we had, because the risk is mean reversion. And in this case, mean reversion is 25.5, 25.3 with the Kijun, right? And we're setting ourselves up for this, right? I think it might be a little too soon. We were sort of talking this morning in the pre-show. I think it might be a little too soon for like a massive reversal, right? But at the same time, I'm not going to rule that out, right? Because it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin does Bitcoin things. What I really want to see is what I was talking about on Twitter today, some sort of hidden bullish div. It would look pretty ugly. I don't know where price would be, probably somewhere in here, 23 to 25. But we would have to get RSI below 30, which, that's like news type stuff that's going to bring us down there. I don't think price in its current state is just going to collapse all the way down there. But that's something to watch for, because it's something we had in 2017. But like Jack said, if you're trading on leverage, like this is an easy way to just lose everything. Like this is where you blow up your account on leverage, because you're like, oh, it's a bull market.
Easy.
Bullish. It pulled back 5%, right? Or whatever this is. This is totally fine, but in reality, the potential for another 15%, very, very possible. So I would be guarded up here personally. NFA. Another thing, just talking about divs again, there's a very subtle but real bear div on this high. So just mounting evidence that these highs are in trouble because momentum is waning. We're farther and farther away from the mean. We're hitting targets. We're hitting old levels. Like there's very little reasons for me to be like hyper bullish up here until we start consolidating for like a month, right? I'd love to see a fake out. I would love to see some like shenanigans, jubatery, right? But as we sit here right now, I don't know, in the moment, I'm almost hoping for a pullback. That way I can take it seriously, because right up here, it's just tough. Especially when you have this like overnight 5% move. You woke up yesterday, we were up 5. You woke up today, we were down 5. How do you trade that? I think that's very difficult to trade, confidently on higher timeframes. And that's it. That's all I really have for Bitcoin. There's not much else. ETH, kind of super impressive that post the staking unlock, which was a success, we popped up. We were sort of hinting at that. Here's my one evidence for bullish rising wedge, right? Before Schmitty talks about rising wedges. I also think rising wedges are bearish, falling wedges are bullish. That's typically what happens. People love to argue that. I'm sorry, I just can't trade. I will never trade a rising wedge as a bullish event. I just can't. Never.
Josh, let me point something out. because I see this all the time, especially in like the crypto side. So you see how we're above your upper range bounds there right now at this like $1,980 Ethereum price. Look at the last time we popped out, August of 22, I guess. Like, yeah, right there. That actually followed a rising wedge as well. So there were just preceding that, there was also a rising wedge. It impulsed above the range and then ended up breaking back down. So wouldn't it be interesting if the same
Wouldn't
thing
it be
happened
nice? Yeah, I just I'm not bullish on unlocks ever for any reason. Sorry, I just can't be. I know most people haven't been selling, which is good. If you're watching that, they have been basically rotating their ETH into new validators or rotating their rewards into new validators. It doesn't look like there's a lot of ETH being sold. If we look at ETH balances on exchanges, they're way, way, way down. They continue to fall. That tells me people are using DeFi, people are using DEXs, people are staking, right? They aren't rushing for the exits, which is important. But we still have unlocks to go yet. And with everything looking how it's looking, I just think this ETH stuff needs to pan itself out for another like month or so. But I still like this 2,500, 2,600 eventual target. I just don't know the trajectory ultimately.
With the unlocks though, isn't there like a huge lag time? So like if you wanted to unstake your coins, it's like a 2-week to 30-day lag time on these exchanges, like a Kraken.
So there is a lag. It's not quite that extreme from my understanding. I'm trying to pull up there's two links. One is Hill Dobby from Dune, who has some amazing dashboards. This is one of them. If we look at
flashbang chat, suck it.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry. If we look at deposits, withdrawals, deposits are picking up again, withdrawals are slowing down. Most of this was Kraken because they have to withdraw all of their ETH. If we look at the Nansen data, which is the second ETH source I've settled on that I like, again, they show deposits slowly trickling back in, most of the withdrawals slowing down to nothing, right? And if we look at, it's somewhere on here, where's days to exit? It's like 4 days or something. Here it is. So yes.
What does the round one mean? Is there multiple rounds? I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, I've tried to look into this. It's like epochs. Schmitty's right. It's not instant for sure. It does take time. So we're going to see this stuff trickle through the system still. There's still 950,000 ETH waiting to be withdrawn fully. Lido also has tiered withdrawals coming because they're gating the higher ETH amounts. So this could take a whole quarter eventually to like actually work its way through the system. So I would sit tight on ETH from a price perspective, just based on that. There's still a lot of stuff going on here. Yes, it was successful, great, but there's still a lot to filter through. As far as, go ahead.
I was going to say that could be interesting with respect to this chart. If basically there's enough sell pressure to kind of bring it back down to the range lows before breaking out, in some future time. I don't know. I think that.
Yeah, I mean, we could do this, for another 90 days.
Right.
That's possible. Certainly. 100%.
Or if your fractal is actually fractally. Wow.
Run the lows.
No. Yes. So if you look at, I'm trying to figure out how to draw on your thing.
You're gonna break everything.
Here we go.
Chat, Zoom sucks for the record.
So chat can see it, you guys can't. So we would be right here. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes. So we would be somewhere here. See how it ran the previous high? Where Josh, on your left H, your highest H, the fractal there would be the high on your 2015 Bitcoin chart, right? Our current high, which ran that high, would be the fractal equivalent on your 2015 accumulation fractal. So if you were going to look at this as the uber fractal of all fractals,
Oh, you mean this up here?
Spring it.
Yes.
Spring it. Yeah, he's saying send it down to spring.
because it
Yeah.
ran the high, and
I
almost
mean,
like it just from like basic Wyckoff. It's like anytime you break out and then you fake a breakout, you almost always run the lows of the range. Now this is a huge range, so that would be devastating. I don't know if they would actually do that, but that would also be a failed Adam and Eve double bottom breakout, which has me super sketched out about this return back below the neckline. Like if you look at it like on a weekly chart or a daily chart, that's basically just a giant Adam and Eve double bottom.
I just think there's also a lot of uncertainty with regulation. You know, you
Yeah.
can say that you think ETH is a commodity all you want, but until they come out and say that, they've said it in the CFTC, but Gary Gensler kind of has not said that yet. So there's still some consternation here. Now, if we look at like CME OI, it's popped up considerably on futures, on options, on micro futures for ETH. But I don't know. You know, it's still very much kind of trendless in the bigger picture. Obviously, since you know beginning of the year, it's had a great rally. But yeah, I don't know about ETH in the near term. It doesn't look like there's anything setting up specifically here.
Mm-hmm.
Just looks kind of blah. Let me talk about gold Dixie real quick. Gold, this is a 3-day. It's gold. It moves, you know, at the speed of Boomer, so it's super slow. And we have been correlated to gold on the Bitcoin side of things, increasingly so since SVB. One thing I also noticed talking about like Eve Adams, Adam Eves, whatever. Like this whole thing is technically a pareidolia, sure, but you know, Eve Adam. There's tons of Adam Eves in here as well. So this thing wants to go up, you know, it wants to, but it is just getting absolutely smacked down at these highs here. And to see it get hit so hard at these highs again, with Bitcoin sort of at that level, right, at like 30, you know, it's not super encouraging. And even if you zoom way out, obviously, I think everybody and their mother has talked about this cup and handle at this point, but you know, this thing is primed for highs, undoubtedly. You just have to consider what's going on with rates, with macro. I don't know. That's above me, but gold still looks good for breakout, and I do think it's going to be correlated with BTC. I guess I'll end with I'll start with Dixie, but towards the end, Dixie's still a critical level, right? I don't have any general trade here other than it looks bearish. It just has to break down first, you know, like call this a million things, head inverted cup and handle and head and shoulders, whatever. I just think it needs more time. It takes forever for this thing to do anything. So the hope, which is a great way to trade, the hope is that we have this, you know, bearish move as we have in all crypto bull markets back to 90 into halving, right? That's something to watch for. Again, this is going to be related to rates, related to relative rates of the United States versus the world, blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot baked into this, but something else I'm also very interested in. And then I want to talk about AVAX too, just for a second, because back to the relative value conversations, you know, another way to trade these relative values, much like the dominance, right? Like, let's say you're long AVAX and you want to like look window rotate out or something, you know, you just put a stop here and you just hold AVAX, right? until it moves below or you hit your target, whatever. But that's definitely one way to play it on these like non-BTC pairs, you know, like these could be very messy, but also worth keeping an eye on for sure, because I think the alts in general are traded more by ETH people, you know. I could be off base there, but I think just based on proximity,
those people,
based on the proximity, based on dexes, based on bridges, right, all that stuff,
right?
I think it's more of the same type of crowd. But AVAX USD is one that also looks very good to me, at least it did. It's got some nice, you know, the good thing about chart patterns is once you know how to trade it once, like it doesn't change, it's always the same. So Your level that you're watching here on the downside is here if you're already in this trade, for example, but I like this setup. Now we can look at volume as well. If I can find it on my chart here, there it is. Volume perked up a little bit. You can see this. This is just like old notes for Binance, but crazy volume div on this in 2021. But yeah, volume's coming back. Pattern looked good, back at highs. I don't know. It looks okay, right? Alts in general looked okay, at least until last night. So do I think up or down is the ultimate question. I'm just watching this thing like a hawk right now because that looks just primed for brutality for sure.
Okay, so gun to your head, up or down? We're going to make this a regular part. Gun to your head, what are you going to do?
I think the best trade right now is, no leverage spot, like Jack was saying. I don't think there's a specific trade here because the way we're moving overnight, like you could get faked out every single night. Your stops could get hit every single night if you're trading this while you sleep, because when we have this range like this, it's just absolutely insane.
That stopped out overnight thing was driving me crazy in the last range, because it'd be like it would look like things were going to continue in a direction, and you'd wake up and you're like, dude, my stops are in such good profit, like there's no way this is going to run back 10%. And you wake up, you're like, how in the fuck did this run back 5% in 3 hours? Like how? And it would do that over and over again. Like in your prior range, like just look how many candles were like bullish engulfing, bearish engulfing, bullish engulfing.
Yeah, it is difficult if you're trading this on leverage. Good luck to you, anybody out there who's above 5x leverage. That's
pretty much.
That's just rough.
I did 125x short at one point a couple days ago because it made like a real low time frame Wyckoff distribution, which is meaningless in the grand scheme of things, but I was like, I'm doing it just to try.
Yeah, you were talking about like this stuff, right? I mean, you could even argue maybe there's an inverted cup and handle here, right? What I don't know. This whole thing is just a complete mess.
Well, yeah, what are we doing here?
I checked and I looked back in like the 1 second chart. I was trying to see like what happened last night. Who led who? It looked like everything moved together. I couldn't really pick out, was it Binance, was it Stamp, like was it, a specific exchange? But that is just that's a move right there.
Yeah, and like we were talking about in the pre-show, there was the volume on that was crazy. Whether it's spot or margin exchanges like Binance or whatever, the volume it stood out for sure.
Yeah, but ultimately 28.5 is my line in the sand.
Yeah, same.
That's where things get interesting. And the downside risk is considerable, I think, here. For sure. So I'll stop there. That's all I got. Certainly not as bullish as I was last week.
Yeah, right.
This week. And we'll let the chief bear take over.
The chief bear. It's so annoying that like I have to be the representative because like I'm not even that bearish, but like
well, that's the thing, like a massive pullback is actually super bullish in the long term. It's just if you're trading this intraday or something, you obviously need to pay close attention.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start with my little chunk with Dixie. This is kind of my pulse on the market. This is where I always start everything, right? My bullish bias on crypto will start with a bearish bias on Dixie, not the other way around. And something that's really important to note is that we are currently sitting at a 30-year level, okay, dating back to 1987. Okay, what is that? 30 years? Close enough. Whatever.
I was a wee zygote at that age.
Just a thought in your father's eye. All right,
tear in his eye.
A tear in his eye. Yeah, there you go. Whatever. All right, so this is really important, right? Because as Josh pointed out, every time we've had a bull market in crypto, or for the most part, the major ones, the ones in recent history, it has all come from this level getting rejected. Okay. So if this thing gets rejected and it comes down, cool. That's great. But if we try to look at this objectively, right, and we say, what does this look like upside down? Because that's just a good way to flip your bias. I think, Josh, you're actually the first person that ever presented this idea to me. You didn't show it to me, but like I saw it in like one of your videos or something. But if we look at this, right, and we're looking at this level, right, this level looks like a throwback to broken support. Boom, right? And if you were a betting man, it is generally not in your favor to bet bullishly against this. So if we flip that logic back the way it was, the right way, it would be not in your favor to bet bearishly against this, because this is an historic level. It's had multiple rejections. Yes, there was this time when it just absolutely tanked through the floor, but that was, I don't really know what was going on. What was 2002? That was on the heels of like the .com bubble, but like, is that, I guess, whatever. Irrelevant what the news event was. This level gets respected over and over again. And right now, we're currently doing that for the 10,000th time. So, as I think we were here, we were somewhere in here last time we did the stream, right? And I was like, this is, in my opinion, the most important chart to watch. I still maintain that. Because if this thing gives out, and it's, the next logical place it goes is the bottom of the range. And if that happens, well then, cool, everyone gets girlfriends, we all get Lambos and all that other fun stuff, right? But if this thing bounces, even just a little bit, that could be enough to be the catalyst to pull crypto back to any sort of mean reversion, or maybe even to, worst case scenario, into like some deeper bear market that no one's anticipating, right? But even just a little bounce here, something that goes like this and, breaks down, that could be enough to get our mean reversion, right?
I like that, by the way, what you just drew, because the whole thing reminds me a lot of that Bitcoin move of 200 to 20,000 and then bouncing at 6K forever for like a full year.
Yeah,
that's what this reminds me of.
Yeah, exactly. So for those who don't know your Bitcoin history, he's referring to this, right? Boom, and like a bouncing ball, it dribbles, and snap, right? And I don't know why this meme was ever propagated, but the more a level is tested, the weaker it gets, not the stronger it gets, right? And you can see here, like Bitcoin just bounces, and eventually there's no more buying pressure and it snaps. We could see the same thing happen on Dixie, right? So it could just bounce. And I think the mistake a lot of people are making, and maybe it proves to be fruitful, but I think a lot of people are trying to front run the assumption that this will snap. And the fact that this is such an historic level does not lead me to believe it's going to snap with ease, unless there's some sort of news event. I don't know what it would be, maybe nuclear war of some kind. Like, I don't know what it would be.
Let's not put that. Hold on, calm down, Ricky Bobby.
All right. So, all right,
you put that evil on me.
Yeah.
So what about like a less lethal everybody dies option is like, I know several other countries are saying, hey, we're not going to use the dollar anymore for oil, trades. We're going to use something else.
Yeah. So that I mean, we're already starting to see that, right? Like we're starting to see a lot of the OPEC countries settle their trades in their native currencies. There's a big push to make China a more profound economic figure in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And
powerhouse.
Yeah, and something that's really notable here, if you're expecting this to just snap, is this thing made a marginally lower low. Like when I say marginal, I mean like a freaking pixel, right? But that matters because that's if you're looking at like quote unquote structural breaks, like this would be this breaking that low and rejecting is usually an early sign that it's not ready to break, and it will at minimum like bounce. And if that does, then we can start considering mean reversion targets on Bitcoin, right? On Bitcoin, I've been watching this rising wedge form. It's as textbook as it gets, right? We have this series of higher highs, higher lows, but they're converging in an upward fashion. And of course, we want to see the consolidating volume throughout, which we see. And right as we're currently seeing a breakout at the bottom, and it's occurring on really high volume. So these are all things that we would want to see, quote unquote, want to see. Not, if you're a bull, you don't want to see this. But like, if you're looking for a rising wedge play, like this is textbook, as textbook as it gets. So when we look at target,
wedges are bullish, Vinny. Come on.
Yeah, right.
So
Up is down and all that.
I mean, just like you could stand in front of a speeding train and maybe they could break, I would not want to bet that they're going to break in time before they hit you, right? There's always an option that, yes, this goes to the upside. But just because something has a 10% chance of going to the upside, that doesn't mean that, that's such a very short-sighted way to view market consolidation. Because it's like, yes, things could break to the upside, of course. But anything could do X, right? Like that line of thinking doesn't make any sense to me. So when I'm looking at this and I see a breakout to the downside, I see volume picking up. We see a big snapping spread to the downside. This says, okay, well then we should start looking for downside targets. Like, don't just be like, okay, I'm going to buy this in hopes that I'm wrong, in hopes that this thing isn't going to play out. Like, let's be objective here, right? And there's a bunch of different ways you can measure this, but a really simple way to measure this is we take the lowest swing low. We take the lowest swing low. Get out of here.
Oh, is this what you wanted?
Yeah. Lowest swing low, the immediate swing high that forms the upper boundary. We measure that and just project it downward, right? So we go here, 4,500 approximately, and we just project it on the breakdown. So 4,500, which, funny enough, is a lot of, like this target right here, this level is, there's a lot of similarities between this and some of the things that Josh was actually showing. Like your C-clamp target is this level, right? Like almost exactly.
That's the yearly pivot too, by the way.
This is the yearly pivot.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. Like right at that level.
Yeah, and if you're looking at this inverted head and shoulders, this big ass thing that broke to the upside, that's the neckline of the head and shoulders, which a lot of times we get throwbacks to the neckline, right? And then it continues upward. But what's really important to note is that if we do see a pullback, which anytime we see bearish engulfing candles following a bullish engulfing candle, that's never really a good sign. Yes, we could maybe form another bullish engulfing candle, something along the lines of what we were saying here. But again, we don't want to bet on like the smaller probability. We just take Occam's razor and it's like, okay, bearish pattern, rising wedge, check. Breakout to the downside, check. Bearish daily engulfing. Yes, we got 5 hours left. Okay, if it doesn't close a bearish engulfing, different story, but let's assume it does. Check. Like, these are all things that show market weakness. We have volume divergence to the upside, right? These are all signs of, at best, bullish weakness, and at worst, bearish strength is gathering. And so where we're going to look, right? We're going to look to this target to the downside, which is a very logical target. We have neckline throwback. We have the cloud C-clamp target. We have rising wedge target. And this is a very good line in the sand to draw your bias, because if this thing closes somewhere down here, for example, if it comes down here, that, in my opinion, is a no buy zone. If this thing closes down here, like we get daily closes and more importantly, a weekly close down below the neckline, that is a breakout failure. And so we should have these things in mind when we're looking at the market. Like, yes, we want to all get girlfriends and Lambos and stuff. Like, cool, that's fun. That's a good meme. But in reality, like, Dixie's sitting on support. Bitcoin's running into macro resistance in the form of this overhanging level, right? There's bearish divergence happening. Like, all these things are pointing toward a pullback to the downside. The only question in my mind isn't, are we going to pull back? It's how far, and will it hold when it does pull back? So with that in mind, like, I'm watching this 25.3, this little zone of prices in here, because I don't like to really, I used to be more about drawing discrete levels, but I think zones are more appropriate in crypto because you just get so much slippage sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so like drawing zones is a little bit more appropriate.
Yeah.
So anything that's like in this zone is considered the neckline to me. And so if we get a pullback in here and it keeps going, I'm just going to give, since I'm the resident bear here, apparently, I'm going to give the apocalyptic outlook. If this thing does close down here, I would be eyeballing a run of this liquidity pool down here. Like, that's like absolute worst case scenario. Not trying to scare the shit out of all you guys.
Damn, you are
but,
bearish.
But, you know, like, these are things that I'm just like, I'm just very binary with it. It's like, if this happens, then I'm looking for this. If that happens, then I'm looking for this, right? So, like, yeah, I will be assuming that this holds, and I'll be a buyer in this zone here. Like, I'll be looking for that. But
Well, that's the question. Like, do you put bids personally, right? Like, you think about putting bids there or bidding that area, and I would. Sounds like you would. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the assumption isn't that it's going, again, like Occam's razor goes both ways. I'm not going to assume that the apocalypse, because usually it's like between the extremes lies somewhere, you know, the truth lies somewhere in the middle, right? So if this thing does pull back, people are going to think, oh my, you're going to see Twitter fill up, like, we're going to 12K, we're going to 10K. And most likely it's probably just going to bounce on this neckline, really. But it's going to scare the shit out of you when it happens. I don't think it's going to be something that does this and snakes down. I think it's going to be something that's hyper aggressive, scares the living shit out of you, and then bounces. Like, something like that is most likely what I'm looking at.
So, gun to your head. Same question.
Gun to my head, I'm leaning like almost 90-10 correction to this zone. 90-10.
To the 24, 25 zone? Yeah.
Yeah. So 24 to 25. Like, that's, I'm like, it's just so obvious, and people are so smugly bullish on crypto Twitter. Obviously, that's not a very good, like, what does that mean, really? But, like, you know, it is a sample size of, like, in my opinion, like a few hundred people, right?
Well, if you would have asked margin longs yesterday how they felt, they would have said, I feel great.
100%.
Today they're like, man, I'm pretty nervous.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, it's I'm with you though. Like, to see us give up those like 30K levels so quickly,
Yeah.
it doesn't make me optimistic that we're going to continue, you know.
Yeah, and following up on the Ethereum conversation. So if we look at this weekly chart on Ethereum, because it's making this macro, you know, I mentioned it, the Adam and Eve double bottom. We're below the neckline here, and that would be once again a breakout failure. And if we go back in time with this Bitcoin fractal that Josh pointed out, so I'll show you guys where it actually took place.
How's our time, Schmitty? I don't have a clock on my side.
We're at 2:53.
Like 5 minutes.
Yeah, we got 5 minutes.
Okay. All right, cool.
So if we go back in time, we're transported, right? Here's our accumulation.
Are you using Alligator? Is that what you're doing?
No. It's just 50, 200, 600.
Oh, okay.
EMA. What's really funny about this is this made an Adam and Eve double bottom that took out the high and rejected. Adam and Eve double bottom took out the high and is currently rejecting. So if your fractal's right, things could get really ugly pretty quickly, especially if Dixie bounces hard as shit, because it's in this huge descending channel. And
I mean, 2015,
maybe it comes
2016,
back up.
that period of time where we had that drawdown.
You were there for that, right?
I was there. I was trading it. There was one guy, Benji, who was like selling the market down, kind of similar to now. Like, if you got to be careful of whales selling, you got to be careful of liquidity, because liquidity at that time was also very poor. And that was just, you know, kind of one guy pushing the market.
Oh, you're talking about this guy right here? Like this move to downside?
That whole, yeah. That whole shenanigans there. And on Bitfinex, I think it even went.
Oh, it went way low. Yeah.
That was him.
Spring.
That was Benji.
This is what it looked like. Oh, dude, these charts are so old. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Look at this. Wyckoff markup.
You still have your stuff on it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I marked this up probably. This is hilarious. It's on you. This has to be like 5 years old. I don't know, 4 years old. Just going back and learning Wyckoff.
I mean, I don't know if it's possible, but I'm going to keep the idea alive just in case, you know. But
yeah, I mean, like I said, like, I would not assume a nuclear Armageddon on the crypto markets. Like, that's not the smart play. That's not.
But I'm with you as far as the breakout trade on the Dixie. Like, I don't think you can front run that at all. I think you got to wait for the Fed meeting at the very least on the 3rd of May. I think you got to wait for a bunch of more data to see what the hell they're going to do as far as keeping rates where they are, bringing them down. Rate probabilities right now are just holding one more hike and then hold for like 6 months or whatever. So we'll see. But the next meeting's on the 3rd.
So all of that to say, generally not like, don't try to, if you try to get too smart with crypto, you look like an idiot. Like there's like a fine point in time where you have to like you should be a little dumb with crypto and you do very well. If you try to be really smart with crypto, you're going to do poorly. And this is, in my opinion, one of those times where it's like, do you short support? Probably not. Do I long resistance? Probably not. Is the market going to just tank? Probably not. It's probably going to be somewhere in between. And the fact that we're running into this macro resistance, it's a no-go zone for me. Anyway, that's my spiel.
Love it.
I think we're all in agreement as far as what we think is going to happen today.
Yeah.
I think alternatively, we just go sideways for 30 days.
You know what? I think it memes and goes north of that rising wedge. That's actually what I think that'll be the final impulse. It'll break up, meme around right at 33, and then give it away and like give it all back.
Maybe
something like that. That's kind of where my bet is. But just in my head, I'm not actively like trading that or anything.
Well, I want to see a retracement so I can buy with cash. So right? That's probably not going to happen. So
yeah, right. That's how it goes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just say, just as a reminder to chat, because I know we're winding up, but the next meeting will be, or the next episode, I guess, will be on the 3rd of next month. So that'll be good. That'll be good. So that's the first Wednesday of May. So the 3rd. And
that'll be on Jack's stream. So it won't be here. It'll be over there. Talking about the whole Benji liquidity thing does have me thinking, like, I wonder if there would be some sort of equivalent to a massive unlock of staked coins on Ether.
Well, we've got that. We've got Gox coins. We've got the government selling coin, U.S. government. So
bring it on.
There's possibilities that would align with that for sure.
Gross.
The whole Gox coin thread has been around for so long.
I feel like it's a bit overblown, personally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if there's nothing else, guys, you got your hour, your market power hour. You grew 2 inches as promised. And when's the next one? What did you say it was? It was the 3rd of May.
2 weeks from today, 3rd of May.
Cool. 3rd of May. And then again, that'll be on Jack's stream. If you want their Jack and Josh's stuff, here's Jack. Boom! Exclamation Jack. If you want Josh's, exclamation Josh. There's their stuff. Other than that, I think we're all good here. Any closing thoughts from you guys, or we're good to go?
No. Eat your veggies.
That's it.
Yeah, eat your veggies. Get your pets spayed and neutered. All right. See you guys in 2 weeks.
All right. Peace.